All right, this meeting is being recorded, and this is the Pathways Virtual Support Session for March 21st. As a reminder, our agenda will have a little bit about the Basecamp email. We'll go through some questions, a little bit of a demo, which is really a screenshot of the Pathways environment. And then we'll have additional questions as there's time permitting, because I'm going to be using, or I am using, the free Zoom account. It will cut me off after 40 minutes if we have 3 or more participants. So if we need to continue for an additional 30 minutes after the initial 30, then we can all log off and log back in and go ahead and continue. As I mentioned, this is being recorded. If you have any questions, please go ahead and put that in the chat room, and we will go ahead and look at those at the end, and then I'll stop the recording, and then we'll open up the lines and we can have whatever conversation we would like to have. So again, this is TK O'Geary, one of your Pathways guides, and you are on the March 21st Pathways Virtual Support Session. Okay, and if you can hold on just a moment, I actually do have somebody that just came to the door of the room where I am. So hold on a moment. All right, so we are in the March 21st Virtual Support Session and a Pathways Virtual Support Session. So we're going to go ahead and work on getting some information out to you all about Basecamp. We're going to go ahead and do the questions, have a little bit of a demo, and then additional questions, time permitting. So let's go ahead and go on to the next slide. All right, the club email. So this is a reminder about the Basecamp manager role and the club email. When you go to the Toastmasters.org website and you click on Find a Club, there's a little button that says Email the Club. And many people have put their public relations manager or some other person that receives that email. This is the same email that will be used whenever anybody completes a level in Pathways and submits that completion to the Basecamp manager. The Basecamp manager is the Vice President of Education, backed up by the club president and or the secretary. So if you have that email that is going to the Vice President of Public Relations, some clubs are saying, well, that person's going to forward any Basecamp email to the Vice President of Education. Some clubs are using a generic club information email. So as you see, these are the clubs that I support as a Pathways guide, and in each one of these clubs, this is the email that is being used on the Find a Club and when any Basecamp email will be sent. So just know that if you are in one of these clubs and you have an email for Basecamp that is going to a specific email of an individual, then that person is either needing to be somebody who has Basecamp manager functionality, Vice President of Education, President, or Secretary, or will forward that email to one of those three in a timely manner. There are some districts that have gone live on Pathways, and some of the members are saying that it's kind of slow to get a response because everything is online. They're expecting things to move more quickly. This is the one area where it cannot be automated. It's all about the human being responding. So just make sure that if any of these emails are the right ones, you want to make sure, the right ones for Find a Club. You also want to make sure that they're the right ones for being able to either get the email to the Basecamp manager or that the Basecamp manager can get a hold of that email. For example, in Tumbleweeds, there's a generic tumbleweeds.toastmasters@gmail.com, and that is accessible by club officers, and at least some of the club officers. So you can make it accessible to some or all. And then here's another reminder that several districts are forgetting about. And we're kind of new in District 23, so I don't know if anybody has picked up on this yet. Once you have conferred a member's achievement in the Basecamp environment, you still need to go into Club Central on Toastmasters.org and submit that achievement in Club Central. So at this point, there is not a connection between the Pathways environment and Club Central for achievement. So know that still needs to take place. And again, that's why the Vice President of Education is the primary Basecamp manager. So let's go ahead. And if you have any questions on that, either put that in the chat room. We can talk about it after we stop recording, or you can chat with me later. All right. Now, there's also a question that says, somebody asked, how do I know which members have at least started to look at pathways? Now, if you go to Club Central, of course, after logging in, and view the club roster, you will see pathways enrolled under the person's name, and if they're a club officer, if that's applicable. So in this particular case, David Gardner is the president of this particular club. This little shadowing is his member number, and underneath it, it says Pathways Enrolled. So all 4 of these particular members have enrolled in Pathways, and if you see nothing underneath that person's name, then they have not enrolled in Pathways yet. So that's just for your awareness. And as a reminder, Vice President of Education, you got 3 Pathways pins in your kit. And one of the suggestions is to give those pins to the 3 members that logged into Pathways first. We saw Els do this in the Off the Cuff meeting this past week. So make sure you get those pins out to folks. That was a suggestion for the first 3. Could be anything you'd like, but something to just promote that getting into Pathways. It's a really neat environment. Now, some people had completed their icebreaker prior to Pathways rolling out. And some people are doing the Pathways icebreaker before going through the assessment. So you still want to be able to get credit for that icebreaker. And as a reminder, the icebreaker is the Pathways icebreaker, not the Competent Communicator icebreaker. So how does a member get credit for doing that icebreaker prior to them enrolling in Pathways? Well, there's a link right here to the resource library. And in the resource library, you can, or even just the resource list, you can enter icebreaker, download the form. It's in a variety of languages. Have you fill out the form, and then have your Vice President of Education sign it and then submit it. So it's very similar to doing a Competent Communicator manual completion, where the Vice President of Education signs speeches, and then that form gets faxed into Toastmasters International. So this is one way to get your achievement recognized from doing your icebreaker prior to either a rollout in the district or prior to the person enrolling in Pathways once it has rolled out. Some people are asking about the Distinguished Toastmaster achievement, and let's go through the requirements for that. The Toastmaster achievement requires completing 2 unique paths. That is, the paths must be different. So you could do visionary communication and team collaboration, and those would be your 2 unique paths. You must serve as a club officer for 12 months, and you must serve as a club mentor or coach. Now, this is a little bit different than the past in the current traditional program, because it was club mentor, coach, or sponsor. So this is a requirement that you must serve as a mentor or coach for Distinguished Toastmaster going forward in Pathways. You must also serve as a club sponsor or conduct a speech craft or youth leadership. So as I mentioned before, it used to be club sponsor, mentor, or coach. So you either need to be a mentor or coach, and then you must also be either a sponsor or conduct something like at the adult level speechcraft or a youth leadership program. You must serve as a district officer for 1 year. This hasn't changed. By the way, the club officer has changed. It used to be 6 months, now it's 12. And then you must complete the Distinguished Toastmaster project. Some people consider that project like an HPL, and there are similarities, but there are enough differences that if you have completed an HPL under the traditional environment, there's enough differences that it will not count going forward in Pathways. So if you are considering getting your Distinguished Toastmaster in the traditional current environment, then you would do a high performance leadership project. If you're looking at the going forward into Pathways and completing a Distinguished Toastmaster there, then you want to go ahead and make sure that you do the Distinguished Toastmaster project. It's called a capstone project as well. Another question that's come up from people is, all right, if I do my 2 paths for my Distinguished Toastmaster, can I repeat one or both of those paths? And the question is yes, you may. So you can complete your Distinguished Toastmaster using, say, visionary communication and team collaboration, and you go through all of the other criteria here, and then you want to get another Distinguished Toastmaster, you can go back through and do visionary communication and team collaboration. So that's the Distinguished Toastmaster in the Pathways environment. The last slide that we have for you today is speech contest eligibility. So a lot of us know that you have to have completed 6 projects in the Competent Communicator Manual to be eligible to compete in a speech contest, with one exception. If you are in a newly chartered club, then you would be able to compete in the speech contest even if you have not met the 6 speech minimum. So what is it in Pathways? Well, in Pathways, you must complete a minimum of 2 levels with a path in Pathways. So I just have completed my level 1 path, and I'm starting in on my 2nd path. So if I did not have Distinguished Toastmaster or anything like that, I would then need to complete that 2nd level before being eligible to compete in a speech contest. So let's go ahead and see if any of you have put anything in the chat area to see if we've got any questions. Okay, don't have any questions in the chat area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, because this recording, like the other recordings, is going to be loaded into a YouTube channel, onto a YouTube channel, so that you can view it at your leisure. And let's see, I'll go ahead and pause recording or stop recording so that we can go ahead and open up the lines and have whatever conversation we want.